Why do your tears come so easily? Why do they rise before you can stop them? And why has the world convinced you that this makes you weak, unstable, or emotionally fragile? From childhood, you are probably told the same sentence again and again. You're too sensitive, don't cry, be strong, and slowly you began to associate your tears with failure, embarrassment, or shame. But here is the truth psychology actually supports. Crying easily is not weakness. It is a sign of a highly responsive emotional system. And responsive systems are not defective, they are advanced. Women who cry easily are not losing control. Their nervous systems are processing emotional information faster than the average person. And when emotion arrives quicker than language, the body speaks first, through tears. This is not immaturity. This is emotional immediacy. Psychology shows that emotions are not meant to be stored indefinitely. They are meant to move, and crying is one of the healthiest ways the brain completes an emotional stress cycle. The problem is not that you cry. The problem is that society only respects emotions when they are invisible. Many women grow up learning a dangerous lesson: feel everything, but show nothing, and this contradiction creates inner conflict, because when emotions are felt but forbidden, the body has to find an exit. Tears become that exit. Neuroscience explains that women who cry easily often have heightened activity in emotional processing regions of the brain, especially areas linked to empathy and emotional awareness. This means they don't just register emotions. They register meaning, subtle shifts in tone, energy, disappointment, rejection, or connection long before others consciously notice them. To the outside world, the tears look sudden, but internally, the emotion has been building quietly. Crying is not the emotion itself, it is the release of it. Ironically, people who rarely cry are often not emotionally stronger, they are emotionally delayed. They postpone processing until it shows up as irritability, emotional distance, anxiety, or sudden burnout. Crying women process emotions in real time, which is why they often recover faster after emotional moments. Tears are not collapse, they are completion. The real damage begins when a woman starts judging her tears, apologizing for them, or trying to suppress them. Because suppression teaches the nervous system that its signals are unsafe. And when emotional signals are ignored, they don't disappear, they amplify. Crying easily does not mean you are fragile, it means your emotional system is honest. And honesty in a world built on emotional denial often looks like weakness to those who are disconnected from their own feelings. In the next part, we will explore why women who cry easily are often the most emotionally aware people in relationships, why their tears appear during conflict, and why this sensitivity is more connected to emotional intelligence than emotional instability. One of the most misunderstood traits of women who cry easily is that they are often the emotional barometers in their relationships and environments. They don't just react to what is said, they react to what is felt but not spoken. And this is why their tears often appear during conversations that seem normal to everyone else. Psychology shows that emotionally responsive women have faster emotional appraisal systems, meaning their brains detect emotional significance before the logical mind has time to label it. So when emotional tension, rejection, disappointment, or disconnection enters the space, their nervous system reacts immediately. This is not overreacting, it is early detection. In relationships, these women are usually deeply invested, not needy. They bond strongly, and strong bonding creates sensitivity to shifts in connection. When distance, dishonesty, or emotional inconsistency appears, their system recognizes it as a threat to emotional safety, and tears emerge as a boundary signal. This is why crying often happens during conflict, not because the woman cannot handle disagreement, but because something meaningful is being touched. Research on emotional regulation shows that tears help the body release stress hormones, allowing emotional balance to return more quickly. Which means women who cry easily are often self-regulating in real time rather than suppressing stress until it becomes chronic. The world mislabels this as instability because emotional release is visible, while emotional suppression is silent. Another important truth is that crying women often struggle in emotionally avoidant environments. When partners, families, or workplaces discourage vulnerability, their natural emotional expression becomes a source of shame, and shame creates inner conflict. Over time, many women begin to silence themselves, holding back tears, opinions, and needs to appear strong. But this does not lead to peace. It leads to emotional numbness and resentment. Psychology calls this self-silencing, and it is linked to higher levels of depression and relational dissatisfaction. Women who cry easily are not failing to regulate emotions. They are failing to be supported in environments that value emotional honesty. Another misconception is that crying means a woman lacks resilience. But resilience is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to return to balance after emotional disruption. And many emotionally expressive women recover faster and more completely than those who suppress. Their tears mark processing, not breakdown. These women are often deeply empathetic, intuitive, and emotionally intelligent, which makes them excellent caregivers, partners, leaders, and communicators when placed in supportive environments. Sensitivity is not the problem, mismatch is. When emotionally responsive women are allowed to feel without judgment, their tears decrease naturally, not because emotions disappear, but because they are acknowledged early. The painful irony is that many women try to harden themselves to survive emotionally unsafe spaces, but hardening disconnects them from their greatest strength, emotional awareness. The truth is, tears are not evidence that something is wrong with you. They are evidence that something matters, and ignoring that signal does far more damage than allowing it. In the final part, we will focus on how women who cry easily can protect their sensitivity without becoming numb, how to stop feeling ashamed of tears, and how emotional expression can become a source of quiet confidence instead of self-doubt. The real growth for women who cry easily does not come from learning how to stop crying. It comes from learning how to relate to their emotions without fear or shame. Because tears only feel overwhelming when they are treated as a problem instead of a message. The first shift is understanding that sensitivity does not need to be controlled. It needs to be supported. Emotionally responsive women are not meant to survive by hardening themselves. They are meant to survive by building boundaries that protect their emotional system. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They decide what deserves access to your emotional energy, what does not, and when boundaries are in place, tears lose their intensity because the nervous system no longer feels constantly exposed. Another important realization is that crying does not cancel strength or competence. Emotional expression and capability are not opposites, they coexist. And many emotionally expressive women are highly effective decision makers once the emotional release has passed. Emotional grounding is key. Simple practices like slowing the breath, placing attention on the body, or silently naming the emotion allow feelings to move through without escalating. This is not suppression, it is integration. Integration allows emotion and reason to work together instead of fighting each other. Perhaps the most freeing truth is that you do not need to apologize for having an emotional response. Apologizing teaches your nervous system that your feelings are wrong, and over time this creates self-doubt and emotional anxiety. When a woman stops apologizing for her tears, she often notices something surprising. People who respect her lean closer, and people who don't quietly distance themselves. And that shift brings clarity rather than loss. Another powerful shift is selective vulnerability. Not everyone deserves access to your emotional world, and learning discernment protects sensitivity without shutting it down. Crying easily does not mean crying everywhere. It means understanding your emotional language and choosing safe spaces to express it. Self-trust is the foundation of emotional confidence. When you trust that your emotional responses are valid, you stop panicking when they rise, and panic is what amplifies emotion. Over time, this trust naturally reduces emotional overwhelm, not because feelings disappear, but because they are addressed earlier. The final truth is this: women who cry easily are not weak, unstable, or broken. They are emotionally alive in a world that often rewards numbness. And emotional aliveness will always look uncomfortable to those who avoid feeling. Tears are not regression, they are movement, and movement is health. When a woman reclaims her tears as part of her emotional intelligence instead of evidence against it, she stops shrinking to fit emotionally unsafe expectations and starts standing in quiet self-respect. The world does not need more emotionally armored women. It needs women who can feel deeply without losing themselves, who can cry and still choose, who can be soft without being fragile. And when a woman understands this, her tears stop being a source of shame and start becoming a source of inner strength.